The cold wind bit through Lisa Carter's worn-out coat as she hurried down the sidewalk, clutching a small grocery bag. The streetlights flickered, casting long shadows on the cracked pavement. She had just spent her last few dollars on milk and bread for her 8-year-old son, Caleb. Every penny counted. Rent was due, bills were piling up, and she had no idea how she would stretch the little she had until her next paycheck from the diner where she worked long shifts. As she passed a dimly lit alley near the bus stop, something on the ground caught her eye, a sleek, expensive-looking black leather wallet. She hesitated. Glancing around, she saw no one. Her fingers trembled as she picked it up, the weight of it unfamiliar in her hands. A quick peek inside revealed thick stacks of $100 bills. More money than she had seen in years. Her breath hitched. This could solve everything, at least for now. Caleb could have new shoes, a warm winter coat. She could finally catch up on rent, maybe even buy some groceries without counting every cent. For a moment, the temptation was overwhelming. But then, she saw the driver's license tucked into one of the pockets. Ethan Monroe. The name rang a bell. Flipping through, she found credit cards, business cards. He was a billionaire, the CEO of Monroe Industries. A man so rich that losing this wallet might not even matter to him. Still, Lisa knew what she had to do. The next morning, she stood outside a towering glass skyscraper, nervously clutching the wallet. A receptionist eyed her skeptically before making a call. Minutes later, 2 suited security guards approached, leading her into a grand office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Behind an imposing desk sat Ethan Monroe himself. Mid-50s, sharp features, silver-streaked hair, but a warm, curious gaze. He looked at her, then at the wallet she held out. "I believe this belongs to you," Lisa said, forcing a smile. Ethan took it, opened it, and then looked up. "Everything's still here?" "Yes," she nodded. He studied her tired eyes, the frayed edges of her coat, the way she held herself like someone carrying the weight of the world. Then he did something unexpected. He reached into the wallet, pulled out a thick wad of cash, and extended it toward her. Lisa shook her head. "No, sir. I just wanted to return it. That's all." His brow furrowed. "You're struggling, aren't you?" Lisa hesitated but finally admitted, "I have a son. I work double shifts at a diner. It's been hard." Ethan was silent for a moment. Then he pressed a button on his desk. A woman in a crisp suit walked in. "Get Ms. Carter a job at our company. Something stable, with benefits. And make sure she gets an advance." Lisa's eyes widened. "What? No, You didn't have to return this," Ethan said, holding up his wallet. "Most people wouldn't. But you did, even though you needed the money. That tells me exactly the kind of person you are. And I want people like you working for me." Tears welled in Lisa's eyes. She had spent so long believing that life would never change, that struggle was just her reality. But in this moment, a door had opened, a door she never saw coming. A month later, Lisa walked into her new office. A steady paycheck, health insurance for Caleb, and for the first time in years, hope. One small act of honesty had changed everything. And as she held her son that night, whispering about the kindness of strangers, she knew that sometimes, the right choice wasn't just about integrity, it was about faith that good things come to those who do what's right. Lisa adjusted the nameplate on her desk, tracing the embossed letters with her fingertips, "Lisa Carter, Administrative Coordinator, Monroe Industries." It still felt surreal. Just weeks ago, she had been scraping by, juggling shifts at the diner, dreading every bill that arrived in the mail. Now, she had a steady job with benefits, a salary that covered rent and groceries without panic, and a newfound sense of stability. But beyond the financial relief, something else had changed, her belief in possibility. Ethan Monroe had given her more than a job, he had given her a second chance. And she wasn't going to waste it. Her first few weeks at Monroe Industries were overwhelming but exhilarating. The corporate world was unlike anything she had known, a stark contrast to the clatter of dishes and the scent of greasy fries at the diner. But she learned fast. She stayed late, took notes, and absorbed everything like a sponge. One evening, as she was packing up, Ethan passed by her desk. He paused, watching as she neatly stacked her files. "Still here?" he asked. Lisa smiled. "Just finishing up. I don't want to fall behind." He studied her for a moment, then nodded approvingly. "You remind me of someone." She tilted her head. "Who?" "My mother." His voice softened. "She raised me alone after my father left. Worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table. People like you, you don't just survive. You push forward, no matter what." Lisa's throat tightened. She had spent years feeling invisible, unnoticed. But here was a man, a billionaire, who saw her. Not as a struggling single mom, but as someone strong, capable. "I appreciate the chance you gave me," she said, her voice steady but full of meaning. Ethan leaned against the desk, folding his arms. "Let me ask you something. If I hadn't given you this job, if things had stayed the same, what would you have done?" Lisa exhaled, thinking. "I would have kept going. Because I have a son who depends on me. No matter how hard it got, I couldn't afford to give up." Ethan smiled. "That's exactly why I hired you." Over the next few months, Lisa's life transformed. Caleb got new clothes, a real bed instead of the old mattress on the floor, and, most importantly, a mom who could finally breathe. One afternoon, as she was reviewing reports, she received an email from Ethan's office. "Meeting at 3 p.m., Ethan Monroe wants to see you." Her stomach fluttered. Was something wrong? Had she made a mistake? When she entered his office, he was standing by the window, looking out at the city skyline. "Lisa," he said, turning to her, "I want to ask you something." She swallowed hard. "Of course. You've done incredible work here. But I think you're capable of more." She blinked. "More?" He gestured to a chair, and Saturday, "I started a foundation a few years ago," he explained. "It helps single parents get back on their feet, jobs, childcare, financial planning. But it's been sitting in the background, underfunded and unstructured. I need someone to run it." Lisa's heart pounded. "You've lived it," Ethan continued. "You know what struggling parents go through. And I believe you can build something incredible. Something that changes lives, just like yours was changed." Her breath hitched. I've never run anything like that before." "You learned this job in months," he reminded her. "You're smart. You're dedicated. And most importantly, you care. That's what this foundation needs." Tears burned behind her eyes. A year ago, she had been standing in the freezing cold, wondering how she'd feed her son. Now, she was being asked to lead something that could help others just like her. She swallowed the lump in her throat. "I'd be honored." Ethan grinned. "Good. Because I have big plans." From that day forward, Lisa didn't just work to survive. She worked to give others the same chance she had been given. And every time she helped a struggling parent find hope, she knew, one act of kindness had changed her life forever. And now, she was paying it forward.